we just found 2 bags in the shed, and there's flies all. I think they're in the shed in a bag, okay? And I'm just scared to open it.
So there's how many bags in that shed?
There's like 5 bags, but these 2 are the ones with flies all over them, okay? Go over here, please.
After this 911 call, officers wasted no time and arrived at the crime scene.
I got seniority. I'll do light.
This is the exact moment when cops realized they had found something terrifying. 2 bags were dumped in a dirty shed, giving off a foul smell. This would become the worst discovery of the cops' lives, as the brutality of the murders was beyond anything they could have ever imagined. On August 26, 2018, when the police arrived at Rudgate, Clinton, Michigan, they had no idea that the disturbing 911 call barely hinted at the horror that awaited them.
911, where is your
Hello?
emergency?
Hi, I need someone to come to my house immediately.
Okay, what's going on over there?
Well, my sister's been missing for 4 or 5 days, her and her boyfriend, and we just found 2 bags in the shed, and there's flies all. I think they're in the shed in a bag, okay? And I'm just scared to open it.
Okay, we don't want you to touch anything, okay? Because if it is something like that, there's going to be evidence, okay?
We stopped.
Okay,
We stopped.
you said there's how many bags in that shed?
There's like 5 bags, but these 2 are the ones with flies all over them, okay? Can you just get someone here to check, please?
Yep, we're getting everyone on the way. What's your name?
Kevin Marzejka. Go over here, please.
On site, they were greeted by Kevin Marzejka and his father, Robert Sr.
Hi.
Hey,
So what's going on here?
my sister, his daughter, has been missing for 5 days now.
Okay.
I did a walk around the house to check if there's any trails or anything suspicious. I seen a boatload of flies behind the shed. And when I pulled things out, we have these bags
Smells like death in there.
filled with flies, and they don't look good.
I can't even open it.
What makes you think that she's there? What makes you think something happened to her?
Don't make me think she's there. Don't tell me she's there.
By then, Kevin's sister Danielle Marzejka and her boyfriend Seren Bryan had been missing for 3 days. While they were still desperately searching for them, something unsettling had begun to trouble Kevin and Robert Sr. For days, a foul odor had been emanating from the shed in the backyard, but that morning, it became so overwhelming that Robert Sr. couldn't ignore it any longer. When he couldn't find his key, he called Kevin to bring the spare. What they discovered inside was far more horrifying than they could have imagined.
See what we got first, and yeah, I mean, we don't even know what we have. That doesn't look normal. Let's grab a mask. There should be 2 in there, right? And let's do this. You want to do booties? Yes. Just in case. I got seniority. I'll do light.
The shed was filled with mattresses and piles of household bags stacked on both sides. But the most alarming sight was 2 large black bags in the corner, swarming with flies and radiating with a sickening, decomposing stench. As an officer inspected a slit in one of the bags, he was stunned by the sight of a pale, veiny leg protruding, along with a glimpse of a bloodied hand.
Oh yeah, we don't have to cut. We're confirmed. We're confirmed. Confirmed.
It's confirmed. Yes, it is. It is. Get everybody out here.
Realizing the magnitude of the situation, the officers began searching the house for further evidence. The shed didn't seem to be the crime scene itself, so they focused on finding any incriminating clues hidden inside the house.
Please tell me not my girl.
Police!
I peeled off to the left and we started searching and just started going room by room, checking everything.
They scoured every nook and cranny, from drawers to floors, but everything appeared untouched and eerily still. It It was now clear that they were dealing with a double homicide. After finishing their search of the house, the officers turned their attention back to the bodies, determined to understand the brutal nature of the crime.
Perfect. I'm gonna start tape.
Yeah, I got tape right here.
I'll tie it here, and then we'll get the front. Sound good?
Yeah. Here's some light.
Yeah, you got a doozy here today. You haven't even opened that second bag, yeah. So we don't know if it looks that each bag looks like it would be one body.
I watched as both bodies were removed from the bags, and I saw that both bodies had been duct taped. Their hands were bound together, their feet were bound together. They also had duct tape around their mouths or over their nose, and they also had bags put over their head and then duct taped around those bags around their neck.
What made the scene even more horrifying were the unmistakable signs of asphyxiation. Duct tape had been tightly wound around their heads, secured beneath 5 layers of plastic bags, along with black contractor bags and store shopping bags, leaving no possibility for air to pass through. The bodies were so severely decomposed that identification was impossible at first glance. As the officers cautiously opened one of the bags, they uncovered a collection of blood-soaked items. Among them was a small mallet, also stained with blood, which immediately raised suspicion as the potential murder weapon, given the extensive head trauma evident on the bodies. But the grim discoveries didn't end there. They also found a roll of bloody duct tape and blood-stained bed sheets that appeared to have been used to wrap the bodies before they were left in the shed. It was evident that this was a meticulously planned and executed murder.
I've been employed with Clinton Township Police for 18 years. This one will stand out in my mind as being more gruesome, if not than any one I've ever seen.
By now, word of the tragedy has spread, and friends and families had begun gathering anxiously outside the house. Meanwhile, the police inside were working to piece together the sequence of events leading to Danielle and Seren's fate. With each clue, the mystery only grew darker. In search of answers, the police decided to speak with a co-worker and friend of both Danielle and Seren, hoping to shed light on the horrifying chain of events.
How old is she?
18. Her and her boyfriend Seren, who's 19, are both missing.
Danielle and Seren worked at National Coney Island, and on the night of August 23rd, the day they disappeared, they had worked a late shift. As usual, their co-worker had picked them up and dropped them off at home. However, the following day took an unusual turn when the co-worker sent Danielle a few messages, but received no reply. This was highly uncharacteristic of Danielle, who, like most teenagers, was almost always on her phone and made it a point to carry her charger to stay connected. Her sudden silence was unsettling, but the real alarm sounded on August 24th when neither Danielle nor Seren showed up for work.
They both work with me. I dropped them off after work on Thursday morning. They've been missing since Thursday at 8 a.m. That's when I dropped them off. That's the last time they were
Where'd
seen.
you drop them off?
Here, at their house, after work.
That was the last time you saw them?
That's the last time anyone saw them.
By then, her co-worker and Danielle's family had begun to notice her unexplained absence. On August 25th, 2018, with no sign of either Danielle or Seren and no way to reach them, Robert Sr. decided it was time to take action and filed a missing person report. However, it wasn't until the next day, August 26th, that a deeper sense of unease began to settle in when Robert Sr. noticed a strange, decomposing smell wafting from the direction of the shed.
So we were looking for the key. We couldn't find the key. One of the keys is missing. So we found the spare, and there was a bag covered in flies. It smelled like death, and we were trying to figure out what was in it. So her dad and brother cut it open and pulled the plastic apart, and then both screamed and freaked out and ran to the shed.
Later that evening, officers spoke with Robert Sr. to gather more information. Yet, during the conversation, they quickly sensed that something was profoundly off.
Me.
It's kind of rough, isn't it, man?
What are they gonna know?
Yeah, not for a little while.
You know what I'm saying? I mean, they got it. Don't want to be my daughter. I know, I get it.
When your shed, it was locked, right?
Yeah.
You and Kevin locked, right?
Yep.
Whose key did you use?
Mine.
So at this point in the investigation, we had a shed that was not broken into. Someone used a key to get into that shed. We had what appeared to be 2 bodies stuffed in bags in that shed. We had a couple different stories on whose key was used. And at that point, we were trying to figure out whose story was true, who we could believe, and who we couldn't.
Although it was late, the investigation couldn't be delayed. Kevin and Robert Sr. were called to the Clinton police station at 11:57 p.m. for questioning.
Should wait here until detectives get here, okay? No problem.
Kevin remained fully cooperative as investigators delved into the possible reasons behind Danielle's disappearance.
What's your name?
Kevin.
Kevin, Joe Burns. I'm a detective here. Yeah, quit. How's Seren's relationship been with Danielle? I mean, they get along?
I mean, from what I was told from her friends,
Okay.
that her boyfriend would never hurt her. So I figured if, she got hurt, he was with her,
So just so I can get this straight in my head, because I'm not that smart.
Yeah.
Living there at that time, so within the last week, I had you living there, your dad,
Yeah.
Seren,
Yeah.
Danielle. Was there anybody else?
My brother.
Okay, and what's your brother's name?
Robert.
Okay.
It was during this session that, for the first time since the 911 call, the investigators heard about another family member, Robert Jr. The mention of his name immediately raised a red flag. With everything that had happened, why wasn't Robert Jr. present during such a critical time for the family?
Were you trying to communicate with him that night?
I tried on Facebook Messenger.
Okay. But you didn't try to.
And, well, the thing is, I could tell, he caught, drift of what's going on, and he pretty much said he's shutting his phone off. I gotta go charge my phone, and then he never came back online.
Right.
So I didn't bother trying to call, trying to text. If he's not coming back online, he's obviously knows what's going on at that point.
This revelation shifted the investigators' focus toward Robert Jr., who had been living in the same mobile home with the rest of the family. Before proceeding further, however, they needed to unravel more about Robert Sr. and the odd behavior he had displayed.
What about your dad? How's your dad?
Always a drunk.
Okay.
And we lost my mom in 2011, and he's never really been the same, Well, he's always drank. Before, he used to take pain pills, too.
Right.
And the mix of the both always made it.
Okay.
He just blatantly was no reason. 3 kids, we've been on our own pretty much since,
What does he do?
He paints.
Okay.
Yep.
So has he been painting at all?
Yep.
Okay. So he's been going out to work, but you said he's drinking quite a bit?
Yep.
Kevin disclosed that his father could act like 2 completely different people when under the influence of alcohol. As investigators dug deeper, the case only grew more tangled and sinister.
I do worry about her. And now, the end is near. And so I face the final curtain.
For you?
Yeah.
Why for you?
Because if that's her in my shed, I'm done, son.
Robert Sr. appeared increasingly confused in his statements. Earlier, he claimed to have opened the shed with his key, but now his story began to change, weaving into something far more unsettling.
And you don't remember whose key you used to get in there?
You know what? My key wasn't on the shelf.
Right.
I remember that.
Now you
What
remember.
it always is.
Now you remembered after I told you that.
What?
Because the whole day you were telling me that it was your key you were using.
Because that's what I always use. All right?
And then when I told you that.
Listen, well, believe me, I haven't slept in days.
Okay, well, I get
Listen.
that.
Listen. I remember it because I went up on the shelf where I have the house keys, and it wasn't there. So I said, my key's not there. And I checked my pockets, because sometimes I have it. No, it wasn't there. Because we had to break the damn lock to get in.
Right.
Suspicion around him intensified, yet the investigators couldn't overlook the peculiarities surrounding Robert Jr. either.
Where is Robert staying at right now?
I have no clue.
You said Robert was with you when you went to work on Thursday?
Yeah.
Did he pick you up, or did you go pick him up, or how did it work?
No, he picked me up. He dropped me off.
Okay. So he picked you up in the morning?
Yep.
Dropped you off at 5:30?
Yep.
So you were with him the whole day?
Yes.
I'm trying to put pieces together because we want to talk to Robert so that we can get his story too, you know?
I'd rather not involve somebody that doesn't need to be involved.
You realize we're talking about possibly dead people here, right?
Even more puzzling was Robert Sr.'s apparent determination to protect his son. This raised troubling questions. Why was he so insistent on shielding Robert Jr.? What was going on between them? Could they be hiding a dark truth about the murders? Despite the mounting suspicions, there wasn't enough evidence to detain either of them. In the end, both were allowed to leave, and the night closed with more questions than answers, leaving the case shrouded in mystery and uncertainty. On August 27, 2018, the investigators received the autopsy results, which confirmed the grim details of the case. Both victims had died from asphyxiation caused by duct tape and suffered blunt force trauma to the head, likely inflicted by the bloodied mallet found earlier. The most heartbreaking revelation, however, was the identification of the bodies. They belonged to Danielle and Seren.
My sister Danielle was a very beautiful soul. I mean, she was very unique and very creative. She loved the odd things in life. She didn't go for your basic, girly things that they all love, whether it's, flowers and whatnot. I mean, she loved spiders and bees and odd things like that, things that didn't get the normal attention. And a lot of her pictures, she would kind of put her head up and just her arms open and kind of embrace the world.
Seren was a very kind person. He was sensitive to how others felt and wanted people to be comfortable and happy. He liked to draw and create art. He had sketch journals. Sometimes he shared them, and asking questions about them, I found out more about his day and how things were going.
Their love story had been one of connection and shared dreams. Seren, who had lived an hour and a half away with his mother, Diana Bryan, had decided to move in with Danielle's family after years of dating. Under one roof, they had built a life together, never imagining that it would be so cruelly and abruptly taken from them. As news of the murder spread, speculation ran rampant. Theories about motives, suspects, and potential scenarios dominated conversations. But a few disturbing details stood out to investigators, hinting at a far darker truth that seemed agonizingly close, yet just out of reach. The absence of defense wounds on either body suggested that neither Danielle nor Seren had fought back, raising unsettling questions. More troubling still was the logistics of the crime. How could two people be subdued, killed, and meticulously wrapped in layers of bags without drawing any attention? How had their bodies been locked in a shed that required a key to access? It seemed increasingly implausible that this gruesome act could have been carried out without help from someone familiar with the family, perhaps even someone within it. After piecing together the evidence, the investigators' first destination was the mobile home where Danielle and Seren had lived. Armed with a search warrant, they were unaware they were about to enter a house of horrors. Initially, everything seemed ordinary, but stepping into Danielle's room revealed a grim reality.
Looking around to your naked eye, it would look just like a bedroom. We use this stuff called Blue Star, so it reacts to where blood was. And the reason why we use that is because at this crime scene, someone had cleaned up. Someone had staged this bedroom to look like nothing happened in that room.
The room wasn't just staged. It had been meticulously cleaned to mask a gruesome crime scene. Detectives then proceeded to Robert Jr.'s room, where they made an even more disturbing discovery. Inside his closet, they found several blood-stained items seemingly tossed in a hurried attempt to conceal evidence.
The evidence tech located a bunch of evidence, black duct tape that had blood on it and hair on it, sheets that had blood on it, towels that had blood on it, a lot of different things that looked like were used to clean up maybe a crime scene.
Blood was everywhere, on the walls, doors, and anything that had come into contact with bloody hands. The sheer amount of evidence strongly pointed to Robert Jr.'s involvement in the murders of his sister Danielle and her boyfriend Seren. With Robert Jr. still on the run, the investigators launched an intense manhunt to bring him to justice.
If Robert Jr. is on the run, he could be pretty far away by now. We also discovered that their family van was now missing and no one knew where it was. So we're starting to realize that Robert Jr., if he is our suspect, could have fled in that van. At that point, things started to move a little bit quicker for us, and we had to move fast.
As investigators delved into Robert Jr.'s past, they uncovered a troubling history of severe mental health struggles. Following the death of his mother, Jill, in 2011, when Robert Jr. was just 17, he began experiencing auditory hallucinations and displaying erratic behavior. Over time, his condition deteriorated, resulting in multiple hospitalizations. Diagnosed with bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, and paranoia, Robert Jr. repeatedly refused to take his prescribed medication. This refusal led to a worsening mental state characterized by aggressive tendencies, persistent hallucinations, paranoia, and rapid, disorganized speech. These revelations made it clear that locating Robert Jr. was urgent, not only to solve the case, but to prevent potential harm to others.
We got a search warrant for his cell phone records. I was looking at the 23rd, which was the last day that Seren and Danielle's coworker saw them. Well, later that morning, early afternoon, I see Robert Jr. was calling a local cab company. And I followed up with that cab company to find out if they did show up to give him a ride.
Investigators soon tracked down the cab driver Robert Jr. had used and brought him in for questioning.
So I spoke to your operator. I asked her about the 23rd. You recall going to pick up somebody at a trailer last Thursday?
Okay, I think I kind of do remember.
Can you tell me anything about that pickup on who it was or anything you recall?
Oh, I can't really remember. Dropped him off at Wendy's. Or I asked him, did you have a specific spot you want to be dropped off? And he said first, I think, at Walgreens and then at Wendy's. And I pulled right in and very first parking spot, he got out and paid me, and that's all I know.
Without delay, they moved to Wendy's, a location that also served as a bus stop. The area was well monitored by CCTV cameras, prompting investigators to search footage from August 23rd. Sure enough, Robert Jr. was captured on camera, casually roaming the area.
He's just acting like the normal guy that you might be standing behind in line at the counter.
What stood out most was his calm demeanor, as though nothing had happened. His clothes were spotless, and there was no visible sign of the brutal crime he was suspected of committing. From the footage, they identified Robert Jr. boarding a bus. Acting quickly, investigators retrieved the bus number and secured interior CCTV footage. The recordings from August 23rd told a completely different story than what Robert Sr. had told them. Robert Sr. had claimed his son was with him at work across town the entire day. However, the footage clearly showed Robert Jr. boarding the bus, directly contradicting his father's statement. This revelation cast serious suspicion on Robert Sr., suggesting he was either shielding his son or possibly involved in the murders himself. The investigators now had solid evidence that Robert Jr. was on the run in a 1999 white Ford E250 van. To track the vehicle, Clinton police reached out to its previous owner, explaining its potential connection to a double homicide.
previous owner, when he had it put up for sale, had taken a bunch of pictures of the van. So I created a crime bulletin. We distributed that to other law enforcement agencies and to the media to get it out to the public.
Meanwhile, as the manhunt for Robert Jr. intensified, the families of Danielle and Seren gathered to hold a memorial in their memory, honoring their lives and grieving their tragic loss.
One of his friends and classmates brought a blank canvas to both memorials, and then she laid out different enamel paints, and people put fingerprints or thumbprints on the canvas. I have that. It was more than enough, and it's what was right for him.
As the grieving families endured agonizingly slow days, the investigators pushed forward with relentless determination. On the morning of August 29, 2018, at approximately 10:08 a.m., Officer Anthony Duncan in Toledo, Ohio, contacted the team, suspecting Robert Jr. might be in the area.
My thought process, I'm trying to think like Mr. Marzejka. He's trying to blend in within the community. I used the homeless to help me. I needed them to pound the pavement for me.
A key lead came from local homeless individuals who reported seeing Robert Jr.'s white van parked near a grocery store. When officers arrived, Robert Jr. was nowhere to be found. The van had been abandoned, its contents untouched. Though a thorough search yielded no immediate answers, it was evident that Robert Jr. had been in the vicinity recently, providing investigators with a fresh starting point. Determined to stay on his trail, the police began canvassing businesses near where the van had been found. Hours of reviewing CCTV footage eventually led to a breakthrough.
He's wearing a disguise, the blonde wig and sunglasses and the tan baseball cap. It looked so foolish. But he just stood out. He thought he was trying to blend in, but he actually stood out.
Robert Jr. was spotted entering a shop to purchase a phone. Moments later, he returned the phone, repackaged it, and exchanged it for cash. A calculated move to avoid leaving a digital trace. Shortly after, he was seen at a gas station buying food, his reactions revealing a cautious effort to stay under the radar while remaining mobile.
He went there and purchased cigarettes and beverages and everything. But he was denied cigarettes because he didn't have identification. It's a challenge to me. It's like a cat and mouse game. He's trying to get away. My job is to catch him.
The trail nearly went cold when the CCTV footage ran out. However, investigators realized Robert Jr.'s lack of close allies meant he would need a new ID to flee to Ohio. Security protocols at stations would require identification, so they shifted focus to footage from local bus and train stations. Their persistence paid off. At a bus station ticket counter, they spotted Robert Jr. buying a ticket to Cincinnati under the alias Josh Bianca at 11:55 p.m. on August 28th. His bus was scheduled to arrive in Cincinnati around 3:45 p.m. the following day. This discovery was pivotal. Investigators immediately alerted the U.S. Marshals in Cincinnati, urging them to track and apprehend Robert Jr. as soon as he was located.
We have many core missions, but one of them is fugitive apprehension. And we pretty much pride ourselves in working with local police departments. It's best to have U.S. Marshals because there's not anywhere we can't go. If we need to, in some cases, we can go outside the country as well. He had about a 6-hour head start on us, and we knew that he had definitely came to Cincinnati, so that was our breadcrumb at the time. So at that point in time, we started heading toward the Greyhound station there in Cincinnati.
Upon arriving in Cincinnati, Robert Jr. headed to the Greyhound station, where he asked an employee 2 key questions: where to buy a phone and the location of the library. His careful planning suggested he was intent on staying unnoticed. Acting on this information, undercover agents were dispatched to the Cincinnati Public Library, prepared to intercept him discreetly. The marshals knew they had to tread carefully. Robert Jr. was alert and could bolt if he sensed danger. When he entered the library lobby, they coordinated with a security guard stationed near the elevators. They showed the guard Robert Jr.'s picture and warned him not to approach the suspect, emphasizing his potential danger. The guard was instructed to monitor him closely. Robert Jr. eventually entered an elevator as the officers watched from a distance, waiting for the right opportunity to act. Disguised in a blonde wig and a hat, and holding a coffee cup, he was trying to blend in. However, when he returned to the lobby, the marshals seized the moment and moved in, bringing the chase to its climactic end. With their guns drawn, the officers swiftly closed in on Robert Jr., who was caught completely off guard and frozen in shock as he realized the end of his escape had arrived. The U.S. Marshals quickly apprehended him right there in the library lobby, bringing the manhunt to a close.
So the marshals had their man, but that was not the end of my job. I had to continue with the investigation. Robert Jr. was transported up to the Clinton Township Police Department. Once he's up here, I got word that he wanted to talk to me, which surprised me. I didn't know that he would talk.
On August 29, 2018, authorities finally had their suspect in custody. Now their primary goal was to secure a confession, and they knew they couldn't rush the process. They took a careful approach, working to make Robert Jr. feel at ease, attempting to build trust and convince him that they were there to help.
Obviously what happened was unimaginable, and it happened to your sister, which is awful, okay? But a lot of times there's reasons why things happen, and whether those reasons are understandable or not, I'm just here to hear you out, okay? So, what did you have to say to us? Did something happen that set you off, or what happened? Well, my first question is, what is my charge? I can show it to you, okay? Okay, so normally, you got 2 counts. This is actually the charge document here. 2 counts of homicide, murder, and first degree. What is that? Premeditated. What is premeditated? I mean, you plan to do it. And if that's not the case, you tell me. You're looking at the worst charge possible. Okay? Killing 2 people. Alright? But nobody can understand why this happened.
However, Robert Jr. showed little inclination to discuss the murders or acknowledge the severity of his actions. He appeared detached and distant, but when he requested to call his brother Kevin, the investigators saw a potential opening. They hoped this could be the turning point. Maybe he would finally open up and confess.
Hello? Hello? Hey. So, are you gonna make this case go easier, bro? I don't know. What do you mean? Are you guys okay in the house? Like, we're not living there anymore, Rob. There's blood everywhere. So, are you pleading guilty to everything? No, I'm not. Wait. Why? I can't really talk about it on the phone, but...
Despite this, Robert Jr. had already made up his mind to plead not guilty, which frustrated the investigators. They needed his confession to strengthen their case, and without it, their task became more complicated. Still, the investigators remained resolute. They were confident they had the right suspect in custody and were committed to pursuing the case. They proceeded with the arrest, charging Robert Jr. with the murders of his sister Danielle Marzejka and her boyfriend Seren Bryan.
Seren and Danielle returned home at 8 in the morning from working all night and go to bed. Robert Sr. and Robert Jr. were going to go paint that day. Robert Jr. was nowhere to be found. He wasn't in his bedroom. He wasn't there. So I believe Robert Sr. left to go to work. And then Robert Jr. then returned home at some point that morning, and something bad happened in Seren and Danielle's bedroom. But I believe that they were bludgeoned to the head and knocked out right away. And probably right then is when Robert Jr. taped them up so they couldn't move.
believing they had enough evidence to hold him accountable for the crimes. While nothing could undo the tragedy that befell Danielle and Seren, Seren's mother, Diana, had words for the person responsible for her son's death. Her emotions overwhelmed her as she spoke from her heart.
I first met Seren on March 23rd, 1998. I saw his heart beating during an ultrasound that day. He's been in my heart and thoughts every day since. My hope was that he would grow up to be a kind, thoughtful person who loved himself and others. And I'm very thankful that I saw him become that man. This is the man now known as one of two bodies found in trash bags in a shed. Each day, I struggle to not let his final day affect me more than that day I first saw his heart beating. I say to myself, sometimes out loud, you cannot keep Seren in that day. You can't keep him in pain. Seren isn't there anymore.
After 6 days of a deeply emotional trial filled with grief and sorrow, the jury reached a verdict on November 23, 2019. It took them just 40 minutes to decide. Robert Jr. Marzejka was found guilty of 2 counts of first-degree murder for the killings of his sister Danielle and her boyfriend Seren Bryan. He was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. Although the family's grief was overwhelming and their loss irreparable, the verdict provided a sense of closure. They could now hold on to the memories of Danielle and Seren, comforted by the knowledge that justice had been served.
As much as my brother's done, I don't hate him. He's where he deserves to be. You know, he's where he belongs. I don't forgive him, and I don't think I ever will, but I don't hate him, and I definitely don't love him either. He's just not my brother. He's just some stranger that murdered my sister and her boyfriend and is in prison for the rest of his life.
Changing who I am because of the offender is a disservice to Seren and to Danielle. No matter what you go through, you can choose if it's going to change you for the worse or the better. Seren's with me every day. He's in my heart.
What are your thoughts on this case? Do you believe mental health was the sole factor behind the killings, or is there something more sinister at play? Could Robert Sr. have been involved as well? We'd love to hear from you. If there's a case you'd like us to cover, feel free to drop your suggestions in the comments below. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel Behind the Crime for more captivating true crime stories. Until next time, stay safe and keep your eyes peeled for the next mystery to unfold.